So here's what I think is happening. We see in one event, two wills at work. This is remarkable. In one event, there are two wills on display. Sennacherib destroys a nation, and he believes he's proving his own greatness. Also, Sennacherib destroys a nation, and God is demonstrating his righteous judgment. Some theologians refer to this as the doctrine of concurrence. And listen to this carefully. In one event, man can intend one thing, and yet God can have a very different intention. So it's one nation being destroyed. It's one army that's marching on. Sennacherib's got his own goal and his own agenda, but God stands behind it and says through the prophet Isaiah, I'm actually working my plan here. I'm doing my thing, whether or not Sennacherib realizes it. Church, I challenge you to consider what I'm saying tonight, because it's not an isolated incident here. This is a pervasive theme throughout the entire Bible. Genesis 50:20, Joseph says, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. There's two meant-its in the same event. I mean, God meant for him to go into slavery. Did you know that? God meant for that to happen. All the brothers thought they were doing is dissing their little brother. They thought they were going to harm him and get rid of him. That's all they meant. And yet God says, oh, I meant that too, but I meant it for a different reason. This series is going to end with a look at the cross. Man meant one thing, but God meant something very different when Jesus was crucified. You remember Caiaphas? He said, here's the plan. It's good that this one man dies and not the whole nation. And John says that he spoke that by the Spirit of God. He had no idea that his actions were fulfilling God's redemption plan. The thing that he meant to end this movement of Jesus was actually what fulfilled God's plan, God's will. Now move down to verse 15, because Sennacherib is not the only one who boasts. Verse 15, shall the axe, this is God speaking, shall the axe boast itself against him who chops with it? Or shall the saw exalt itself against him who saws with it? As if a rod could wield itself against those who lift it up, or as if a staff could lift up, as if it were not wood. God basically says, yes, Sennacherib, you're cutting down nations. Yes, you're sawing people in half. But then he says, you're just a tool in my hand. Yes, you are doing all these things. That list of nations, you have conquered this and that nation. That's true. But you're just a tool in my hand. The axe is not capable of moving itself or swinging itself, right? The saw cannot cut anything unless it's handled by someone. At Ranch Hope, we had a wood shop that was shut down for years. And sometimes I'd have to go in there to get something that was unrelated to the wood shop tools. You know, something was just stored in there. And I would walk past these table saws and all these tools that just had layers and layers of dust on them, because no one had picked them up or used them for years. Because a saw can't turn itself on. An axe can't get up and go chop down a tree unless someone handles the tools. Follow me? There must be a worker to hold the tools, to use the tools. Otherwise, they'll never perform any job. They're utterly incapable of doing anything by themselves. And God says, Sennacherib, you're just like that. You couldn't do anything without my sovereign hands enabling you. This is what God says.